Africans have a culture. All people have a culture. And if you look at all societies, they have an innate tendency to go from smaller social aggregates to larger social aggregates, from the family to the clan, to the tribe, to the village, to the nation, to the continent. They all have this, and this innate process is an evolutionary process. Africa herself, just like every other society, just like every other continent, has this innate tendency, which was pursuing an evolutionary path, going from the family to the clan, to the tribe, to the village, to the nation, to the continent. This innate evolutionary process was interrupted. It came to a screeching halt by capitalism, its offshoots, colonialism, and slavery. Now you must understand, Africa was developing herself on this evolutionary process, going to larger social aggregates, where we would have on our own, on an evolutionary process, arrive at continental unity. This process was stopped by colonialism and slavery, one of the worst holocausts that humanity has ever seen. 300 million of Africa's young and Africa's strong were taken out of the continent through the most violent means that humanity has seen. Over 100 million were killed, and the other 200 million where their labor was used to build European imperialism. This has affected Africa seriously. But Africa has this will, and you must not think that because imperialism comes to suppress this will, that the will dies away or diminishes. On the contrary. Melville Herskovitz, in his book, The Myth of the Negro Past and Non-African, shows us that when African culture is suppressed, it becomes more resilient, it becomes more insistent, it becomes more resistant in its will and its determination to arrive at its objective. Thus, this evolutionary process, which has been stopped, this natural process which we had towards continental unity, this process is not diminished. As a matter of fact, it's become more intensified among the people, and we will arrive at this continental unity, but we can no longer arrive at it through an evolutionary process. The only possible process now is a revolutionary process. We must understand that this revolutionary process is not because we like revolution, but it has been imposed upon us by the historical forces. And this revolutionary process must be anti-capitalist in nature and character. If it is not anti-capitalist, it will further divide Africa, because it is capitalism that stopped Africa's unified evolutionary process. This must be properly understood, and we said that in this process for unity, the people of Africa have a stronger will. It was in line with this that we made our comments last year when we said that you can look at this evolutionary process, this innate will for unity, continental unity, not even by looking at Africa, but looking at Europe. Europe today speaks everywhere of continental unity. As a matter of fact, they wish to ensure us that by 1992, they will have the structural basis in place for a continental-wide government in Europe. Thus Europe, whose wars have scarred the world, Europe, who more than any other continent has been divided among itself, if they speak of European continental unity, one of us whose process had been stopped. And we said, and we repeat, that Europe will never arrive at continental unity before Africa. Africa will do it first. Our basis for saying this is not chauvinistic. It's based on material reality and scientific fact. Yes. We are told by European bourgeois historians and some backward Africans that one of the reasons that Africa will not unite is because of tribal warfare. They tell us that our tribal warfare is everywhere. And you know, we have 1,800 languages in Africa. Give yourself a hand. Secretary says, you can get the top intellectuals of any country. Put them anywhere in the country they're most relaxed. Give them everything you want to give them. Ask them to develop a language. They will never do it. Language is developed only by the people. And we have given the world 1,800 languages. You can see the wealth of our culture here. They tell us that we will not unite because these groups are always fighting each other. Every time they get a chance, they fight each other. If Africa will not unite because of tribal warfare, Europe can never unite because their tribal warfare has scarred the world. I mean, if we have tribal warfare, we just keep it in Africa, but they take their tribal warfare among themselves all over the world. In the island where I was born, in Trinidad, the French fought the British, fought the Portuguese, fought the Italians, fought the Spanish, everybody among themselves fighting each other for spots all over the world. As a matter of fact, just the French citizens killed by Germany alone, all of African tribal warfare does not equal this number, which that is no way possible. Secondly, just in the political area, it is clear. You know, we as a people have, at this time, in our leadership and those in authority, I mean, we look as if we have a monopoly of corrupt leaders. I mean, we have nothing but the scum in place of power everywhere. All they care about is getting individual luxury in the midst of mass suffering at the expense of mass suffering. Everywhere you can see them, they have no love for the people. All they're concerned about is lining their pockets. They don't care. All of them, from the United States all the way to Tanzania, South Africa. We have corrupt leadership. But as corrupt as they are, as backward as they are, receiving direct money from the enemy to keep us divided, none of them can ever come before the people and tell us that they're against African unity or they're against African people coming together, even though they're actively working for it. Even Mobutu can never come before the people and say, I'm against African unity. He can say, well, we need to go slow. We need to take time. We need to watch this one. We don't speed up the process. We want to make sure it's sure. But he can never come and say he's against it. No. But if you would listen to your television, your radio, read your newspapers, every day a European leader comes before the people of Europe and rationally explains why European continental unity is against some aspect of their policy. It'll be bad for agriculture. It's no good for tariffs. It will wipe out our industry in tourism. And they come and discuss it properly, whether it's Mitterrand, whether it's Major or Thatcher or any of them. You can hear them really discussing rationally this aspect of not having continental unity. No African leader, not even the puppet directly on the string of US imperialism, can come before the masses of Africa and say this. And finally, in the cultural field, the mass cultural field, you will see it. Here you will see it clearly. I've heard songs sung to Europe. I've heard songs sung to France. I've heard songs sung to Germany. I've heard songs sung to England. But I've never heard one song sung to Europe. The songs I've heard sung about Africa, I could start with Bob Marley alone. And among the cultural aspect, this need for unity, I have never seen anybody wear a map of Europe around their neck. So you must understand the intense desire that you have for your unity. And the only way we can understand that is when we look at our culture. And when we come to understand that our culture is not only different from American capitalist culture, it is direct conflict with it. When we understand that, we can never call ourselves African Americans, or we could call ourselves as Africans in America, no matter how we act. The job of the enemy is to confuse us and make us think that our history, our culture, and our interests are one and the same. But Malcolm told us a long time ago in our party, we live Malcolm X. We live Malcolm X. Malcolm said, whatever the enemy is for, you must be against. Whatever he's against, you must be for. So we've had our directions a long time ago. Man, talk about what's your position on the war. Malcolm told me a long time ago. And from Malcolm, we go strong enough to tell the whole world, if I'm the Imam of Mecca, and American imperialism is fighting the devil, as Africa is my mother, I'm Satan's comrades in arms. I'll join the devil against America. Therefore, for us, there's no discussion here. America talking about morality. America talking about morality is like a thief giving lectures on honesty. We have to know our culture. We must look at our culture. We say that African process of unification has been interrupted and stopped, but this process must continue. And the stopping point must be clear to you. 300 million were taken out of Africa. Thus this continuation